met my 11th grade summer. So I had just got into some trouble. And then when I got out of that situation, my brother had introduced me and Keith. Keith was actually supposed to meet my other brother, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to go have breakfast together?" And so we end up meeting, and kind of literally, as they say, we hit it off right away. Because we're both very honest and transparent, human beings. But prior to us meeting, as I pointed out, I was really headed down the wrong path, because pretty much based on the environment here in Camden, not many, or I wasn't aware of the outlets or the resources that was available in people such as Keith Benson.
Growing up in Camden, New Jersey, I had a rough childhood like most people, which wasn't surprising, or it wasn't anything that I wasn't used to, I would say, which is not a good thing. But I grew up in a single parent home. My father was a heroin addict, and like most young people, I was not really confident or exposed to anything outside of my 4-radius block neighborhood. And I really thought the world was really small, and I didn't see how I fit into this bigger puzzle of the world. I met Mr. Benson when I was about 15 years old, I would say, during a summer camp where he was working with the city to provide employment to young men of color in the city. And it was a life-changing experience. I remember, like yesterday, I worked as an intern at the county clerk's office in the city, and it was my first time ever having to put on a suit and tie, and just really gave me exposure to a different side of life and what I could become. Unfortunately, after that one summer, my life took a turn for the worse. I started really failing in school, and it led me down a life of crime. And at the age of 20, I was arrested, was sent to the Camden County Jail for 5 felony offenses. And fortunately for me, those offenses were dismissed when I was released, and I was able to reconnect with Mr. Benson through a mutual friend, and he immediately accepted me with open arms.
I have identical twin boys that are 14, and I have to tell you a little story. No one wanted to work with them. Everyone said, "Oh my God, the twins, they're bad. Well, Mr. Benson's number and name came across me. Someone gave it to me and said, "I think you should call him." So I called him, he came out, he met with the boys, and he said we can work with them.
I was raised by a single mother and low income. She actually spent some years on welfare when we were getting started. The first 8 years of my life, we actually lived with my grandparents. So fortunately, my grandparents were active in my life, but we did not have a lot of resources between my mom and I. When my mom finally got on her own, she was living in Camden. We met Keith Benson through the NAACP, and I knew over the summers that he was having different programming. I believe it may have been in conjunction with the program we were getting internships as well. So one of the years, it may have been after my sophomore year, after my freshman year, I was interning at Congressman Robert Andrews' office in South Jersey. And then before that, though, we actually had a lot of programming with Keith Benson. It was a long time ago. I was a young teenager, early in high school. But what I do remember is that he focused on talking about Black empowerment, specifically knowing your history, being able to really think for yourself, think critically, and really have your own opinion despite what's being in the media. Obviously, there's many negative depictions that are explicit and implicit for Black men. And so being able to, kind of find your truth, find out your history, and have pride about your history was game-changing, was life-changing for me.
And within, I want to say, 8 months, there has been a complete turnaround. My sons are honor roll students. My sons are so in tune with themselves, with who they are as young men. And so if you can take someone from the city of Camden, from the streets, put them in college, you can do that with 1 or 100. Imagine what you can do with the whole city.
reignited with the spirit to, approach education again after talking to Mr. Benson for a few months. I went back to school at 21 years old, and the rest is history. I had the opportunity to attend the University of Pennsylvania. I was one of 2 African American students to graduate from their political science department with honors. I interned at the White House under the Obama administration in the Office of Management and Budget during my time at Penn. Upon graduating from Penn in 2016, I was invited to work back at the White House in the Presidential Personnel Office. Remained in D.C. For the next 4 years. Most recently relocated back to Camden, but I would say that that one conversation with Mr. Benson about how important education is and how it can open up, a pathway to life that I couldn't see at the moment really changed my life.
I feel like Keith Benson has not only given me space and opportunity to be a creative and be myself, but he's also offered me resources and information aside from the creative side of my aspects and aspirations, and guided me in ways that people really don't get on a regular basis.
And I appreciate it, but Keith was able to now, if you're not performing, he's not gonna bite his tongue or anything for you, which was helpful for me and having that transparency and accountable, because I live in truth. So things when if there was something that he thought I should improve upon, whether it was my reading or writing or math or speaking, he would then challenge me, and so I had to begin to start to push myself and take the right mental approach.
He introduced me to things that I doubt that I would have been able to access prior to his involvement. From the earliest time that I could remember, I wanted to practice law. I wanted to be an advocate for people who were not able to advocate for themselves. The issue with that is I'd never been exposed to the profession. I didn't know what it looked like procedurally to be an attorney and to be an advocate. And Mr. Benson immensely helped me in that area. One of his first tasks was to get me with a law office. This was in high school. I was exposed to a high-end law office in a time where most people coming from where I came from weren't exposed to that. And it opened my eyes to what it was to be an attorney. It opened my eyes at what it was to be an attorney in a minority area. And it further spurned my fire to be an advocate for people, as I said before, who can't speak for themselves.
Mr. Benson has been there since the day of my graduation, since the day of my enrollment, since the day I was in prison. When I was 15, I got in an incident with a couple of friends of mine, and it led to us being arrested for murder as teenagers, where we were then waived up to adults, where I served 10 years in prison from the age of 15 to the age of 25. We actually met while I was in prison. He was courageous enough to come and visit me face to face, and I thought it was very beautiful. I thought it was respectable, and it was something that I never really was able to receive in the past. Someone to meet me where I was and not judge me, and thoroughly and fully put themselves, in a space with me to figure out what I had to say, essentially.
Still to this day, as an adult, I turn to Keith for advice and would trust him if anything.
From the mentorship and the support system, basically an infrastructure that he's been able to provide for me, really is the pivotal piece in how I've been able to change my life. He had been helping my brother and them for years, and I heard about him, but I never joined the NAACP program. So it's been a blessing. I would probably be dead or in jail right now if I didn't meet Keith.
Really just tried to open doors even after we were well graduate from his program, trying to make sure that he could help as much as he could with our careers. So if I think about key strengths, it's obviously being able to speak to young men. And as I think about it, as I mentioned, I had a single mother. And so I think anyone who ended up being like a coach or a father figure to me really had a life-changing impact. And Keith is one of those people.
So I would say that Mr. Benson has been a life changer, a genuine person, a spiritual person, always keeping God at the forefront. And he also taught me, and I would speak for the rest of the young guys as well that encounter Mr. Benson, is to lead with love. In the midst of, all that we've been through, keeping love at the core, understanding your history. A person can't know where they're going if they don't know where they come from. That's something that I'm really big on, is understanding where I come from, understanding why I am in a position I am at that current moment. And it's just been a blessing to know him, to meet him, and to see him continue to grow as I'm growing. At 32 years old, he's recently graduated from your program. I graduated with my master's, so it's awesome to see everything come full circle. And I truly believe that he can impact a lot more lives with the right support and the right infrastructure around what he's been doing for the past 20 plus years.
He ended up becoming someone like my father, something that I've never really had in life. And we were able to build a relationship, and he was able to help me develop the confidence within myself to express myself through writing essays, through poetry, through conversation with my peers and with other people who were doing or who held similar interests as I.
He's definitely a person that's going to push you forward, and he's definitely a person that's going to help guide you and keep you in the right direction.
So our mantra has really been, Keith and I, that I was in no position to negotiate. So I would ask for certain things, and he's like this dude, like, you're in no position to negotiate at all. And now that's the opposite, right? You're in a position to negotiate. You want to have options, and that's because all the work that we've done over the last 14 or 15 or so years, been able to put myself in that position to negotiate.
What makes Mr. Benson different is his ability to genuinely connect with the young men. He genuinely connected with me and all of my peers, and he always really instilled in us the values of the peace organization that he founded, which is the political, economic, academic, cultural, and environmental. And I think that that's what sets him apart, is that he understands the historical aspect. He pours that into us and lets us understand who we are and where we come from. And he also provides us with a pathway to the future, understanding current events and how we can impact the world in our current place and how we can impact it as we move forward in our pursuits. I think that he's really found a niche in terms of targeting young men who come from highly distressed backgrounds. Like I said, I come from a single parent home, heroin addict father. A lot of my family members on drugs and then out of the criminal justice system. So I think that there's not too many people who can reach young men at that level and really grasp their attention and inspire them to change for the better.
We'll all be free.
I'm Jared Tingle, and I'm a managing partner at Harlan Capital.
I graduated from UT with my bachelor's degree and then continued my basketball career playing overseas before returning back to the U.S. to start my own basketball program and start a family.
My name is Jovan Torres, and I'm a singer-songwriter, producer, and aspiring engineer.
What I'm doing is making sure that I can build a curriculum for the youth to be involved in so that they can get involved in STEM projects and get exposed early on to computer science, as well as building the community relationship with organized labor from which I work.
My name is Brian Turner, and my future plans, most attorneys want to become judges. I also want to become a judge. I believe that I would be fair, given where I've come from, what I've been through, and hopefully I'll get there.
My name is Terrell Brown from Camden, New Jersey. Right now, I've been working on Wall Street for the last 11 years.
Rashawn Prelo, born and raised in Camden, New Jersey. I'm a consultant, community servant, and juvenile justice advocate. I currently work at Deloitte as a finance enterprise performance consultant, and I'm the co-chair of Lead Free New Jersey, which was an initiative that was started in early 2021 to bring saliency to the issue of lead plaguing Black and brown communities. And this work that I'm doing today is a culmination of the last 12 years of how I've grown as not only a person, but professional and academic.
Take it from me, someday we will be free. We will be free,
First off, got to start with dedication. Let your hunger be your motivation. High stakes, big weight, be patient. Big return just for keeping your faith in. Gotta remember that life ain't a race, fam. From the bottom, you scrimming and scraping.